So part of our collaboration and endpoint implementation is to gain an understanding of how we can do some basic troubleshooting. Again, a lot of the issues that are going to rise from endpoint registration or endpoint usability might not be directly related to the endpoint, but it's important that we understand at least some of the fundamental components within the endpoint that we can use to kind of gain an understanding or knowledge of some of the troubleshooting variables, right? We need to establish the boundary of the issue, identify what the possible causes are, and then test scenarios where we identify whether or not there's a solution to those individual issues that we're seeing. It's all about that standard troubleshooting methodology. We're not going to get into troubleshooting integration between IM and presence and unified communications. We're not going to get into troubleshooting the services and whatnot that are running on Cisco Unified Communications Manager in this particular module. But let's take a look at some of the basic endpoint troubleshooting by looking at the video logs to start with on our communication endpoint. We looked at the real-time statistics previously when we were on an active call, and we went into the applications button and under administrative settings and status. We looked at the logs for the call itself. We could switch back and forth between the video and the audio and so on. But in this particular case, we're not going to look at those real-time information. We're going to be taking a look at the status messages for the device itself. So we're going to hit the applications button, go under administrator settings, go under status, and then we'll take a look at the status messages. And what this will show us is in the history of this phone, essentially over the period of time, all of the different messages that have come up during the registration process, during the boot up process, during an active call, or even a call completion process. And we can scroll through this and identify any kind of particular issues. We see a DNS timeout in this particular case. In this case, we might say, for example, try to troubleshoot some of the DNS issues by removing the DNS reliance in Cisco Unified Communication Manager for our endpoints. If I was using VPN, I would see maybe some VPN logs. In the case of our slide here, we see trust certificates being installed, VPN, the attempt of a VPN connection from the device, and so on. But if the phone is acting strangely, it's not registering, it's rebooting, it's performing functions, non-standard, then we can go into those logs and take a look at what's in those logs to identify any kind of issues. In our IP phone, we can also clear the logs if we go into, and this might be something that you would want to do, for example, if you are trying to troubleshoot a problem in real time, we can clear those logs so that the next time any logs show up, we don't have to scroll through a whole list of information to identify what issues are residing. We can just simply look at that cleared log. We know, hey, these messages occurred from the time we cleared the log, which means that those messages are new. If we're in our Jabber client, we have the ability to also generate report problems for Jabber. We can go into our client and go to help and report a problem. And a window will pop up that allows us to identify an issue that might exist in Jabber. We can select the area where the problem occurs, whether it's a sign in or sign out problem. This one's always been kind of confusing to me a little bit because the help option is not really always available if you're not signed in. Audio or video call issues, contact search issues, preferences or device selection option issues, presence, instant messaging issues. So the whole point of this Cisco Jabber problem reporting tool is to really give the user an interface. Understanding, of course, that the user is probably not a technical user per se, so they can't identify, services running in Windows or issues with resources through Task Manager or whatever it might be. So they can simply kind of pick general categories of the areas of operation within the Jabber client. So let's say I have an issue with a video or audio call. I can summarize the problem. This is just a video was choppy. Okay, and then I can put in any steps that I did to reduce the problem or reproduce the problem. I can put in a longer description of what that problem might be. So it doesn't necessarily have to be steps that we took. And then I can also attach files. If I have screen captures of the problem, maybe I'm getting a log message that pops up on the screen, and I use my snipping tool to capture that log message and save it, I can attach that as a file so that the administrator who gets this problem report can further identify the issue. Now that, of course, would require a little bit more knowledge on Windows operation or operating system operation to be able to capture those screenshots, but somebody might be able to do that. So I'll just say during the call, the video was garbled and audio was broken. All right, now I'm not going to attach a file to this, but I could include a memory dump. Now, this is more of a technical concept, right? An end user might not know what a memory dump is, but it's important because the Jabber client is so tightly integrated with our operating system that we have to look at the memory resources in the operating system itself to identify if it was simply just a resource issue or if it was specifically a Jabber application issue. So you might instruct users to simply check that box every time so that you can capture that information. All right. Now, if I had integration with my email, I would be able to send this directly, and that the file, the problem report would be attached and sent out as a ticket, or it would be sent to the appropriate administrators. In our particular case, we don't have that integration, so we're going to go ahead and save our report, and let's save that to our desktop. All right. Now, once we've saved that, you'll see that there are quite a few things that get attached to that file. So let me go ahead and open up that file. Where is it? Let's see. I know it's in here somewhere. There it is. Okay. So if we open up this file, we can see that there are quite a few files contained within this file as well. We've got different Jabber logs that were created, that were attached. Here's our memory dump of our operating system. Our user comments that indicate the video was choppy. During this call, the video was garbled and was broken. We get other things like all of the settings for Jabber, how everything is configured. System info for the system that it's installed in, so we can identify what operating system we're running, what kind of processor we're running, in this case AMD 64 processor. So really a lot of information that will help us identify potential problems with this particular installation. If we have the config, this is all of our XML configuration information, all of our presence information that's cached. We would have to open this up into an appropriate text editor to see the appropriate formatting. But again, it's not just simply one log file that gets sent and attached as our problem report. It's a very comprehensive set of files that allows the administrator or the network administrator to really kind of drill down and potentially identify the problem. The most difficult issues that we tend to see with Jabber that are the most common issues we see with Jabber that are difficult to troubleshoot would be the ones related to call quality, because call quality issues always arise in different scenarios. It doesn't necessarily have to be a persistent problem. It can be a problem that happens kind of randomly over a period of time, which would be difficult to simulate or duplicate, especially if you're sitting on the client itself and trying to duplicate the scenario so that you can identify the circumstances of the scenario. Hopefully a little bit later on, we'll have more of an opportunity to kind of get into some of the additional troubleshooting things that we might want to look at. We're going to do one quick lab, kind of a capstone lab at the end, where we take a look at all of the configurations and the integration components between Presence and Call Manager and all that. But if we have time, we'll try to get into some additional troubleshooting. But for now, that's all we're going to do with this particular exercise.